All right, welcome back, Egyptology lovers. We are completing chapter 17 of it, which is plate 10 now, which goes from 7 to 10. These are the plates. It is one of the longest chapters of the Books of the Dead and probably the most incomplete in any Book of the Dead that you find anywhere. Because of the vastness of it, a lot of the books have nitpicked or chosen certain sections to put in their Book of the Dead for that particular chapter. So let's talk a little bit about the chapter over here. And you can see a little bit it's unusual the way it's shaped, and there's a reason for this here. Very soon you'll find out. So let's begin by describing what we see. Over here you'll see on the left side of the plate, which is where the direction we're moving. Since this is moving in retrograde like the other chapters, we're moving from left to right, but we're reading it from right to left. So we're going up and down like that, instead of reading it from all the way to the right to the left, because the animals and the creatures are facing that way. So retrograde is key for this chapter. All right. So on the scene above here, we have beginning with two jet pillars. These are the symbols for stability. And right over here, you have Ra in the form of a falcon, which is, you can see his symbol that is placed upon his head right over there. And next to him, there's a human-headed bird wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt. And they are standing upon an altar. Now, together, who do they represent? These two fledglings actually represent Ra and Osiris. They're standing next to each other, and they're described right here in the text below. Since the scene is bracketed by two jet pillars, in effect, the name means Jadu, so the two combined is a word which says Jadu. And that's Besuris, the town of Besuris, where Osiris, that's his town, and it's in the delta, which is in the north. And this shows here that they both appear in the afterlife together. Now, this scene marks an important juncture in the papyrus in both textual and literal sense. Even a cursory examination of the document shows that the sheets from two different versions of chapter 17 have been joined here. The area taken up by the columns of the text suddenly widens, so it goes from small to wide. So two things have been added together here. Even the handwriting changes, and the colors used in the double border at the bottom are different over here. Very different, the color from here to there. So they've been joined together from here. As mentioned above, the version of this chapter in the Papyrus of Ani is missing roughly a third of the text, so it's missing a full third. Preserved its entirety on only a small number of manuscripts that actually have it, like spliced film strips from an edited movie. The text breaks off abruptly at the end of the column, then picks up at the bottom, following column. The joins runs through the middle of the text column between Tutu and the group of three-seated deities. So Tutu's right over here. So the join runs right down here. The language is changed. See, the writing is shifted from here to here. So right over here, you can see the script has changed. It's gotten a little tighter, a little bit more condensed, where here was a little more free and more spaced in between. When the two sheets of papyrus were joined, the scribe had apparently decided not to include any of the text pertaining to the next scene, which shows the great cat. So the great cat, so when they joined it, they didn't even bother explaining what this is all about. So they just simply added the imagery and didn't add the description, which is the manifestation of the sun god Ra. So this is technically Ra, who is killing a snake with a knife at the base of a tree. Now, if that text had been included, it would discuss the Ishit tree of Heliopolis, which was split on the night of making war between Ra and his enemies. Now, the snake in illustration is not a cobra. This is not a cobra, who normally functions as a guardian of gateways and shrines. Instead, we have a more generic snake type, often used to depict a harmful creature, such as Apophis, the enemy of Ra, and the chief representative of forces of chaos and non-existence. So Apophis would be the main enemy of Ra. The identity of the three gods armed with knives who sit behind Apophis, well, we don't really know who these are, the representation. Hopefully we'll at some point down the line. Now, the next illustration in the vignettes is associated with the text which would appear much further along if this chapter were in its theoretical complete form. The center element of the scene in the sun bark, right over here, or even here. Sorry, right over there, yes. In the sun bark. The central element of the sun bark, which was decorated, mat fixed to its prow, right over here. The mat is fixed to its prow. In the middle of this boat sits Ra, shown here in the form of Khepri, a scarab. The scarab beetle who represents the morning sun. So the scarab beetle, his head is over here. So this is Ra, again, representation. The boat is shown traveling not on water, but on the sign of Pet, which is the sky. Right over here. The boat is bracketed by the kneeling figures of Ani and his wife at the prow and two baboons at the stern. So you can see here, Tutu and Ani are leaning in front of him, and two baboons in raising their arms in the form of worship, which that in itself is a symbol of worship. So on hieroglyph, for example. The two stars in front of the baboon are the hieroglyphic sign for adoration and worship. So there you go. So a dua. Directly following and marked off by a vertical bar is a depiction of the god Atum in the solar disk. So you have a vertical bar, and now you have another boat with the sun disk, and you have the name of Atum right over here. As a deity representing the evening sun, Atum acts as a complement to the last scenes. His boat is also traveling across the sky, right over here, but in the opposite direction from the bark in the previous scene. In front of Atum is an object which has been identified as a packet of instruments lashed together, right over here. Basically, it's the execution tools of the sun god, right over here. The last scene in the scene is most often found ending the illustration. For this chapter, it represents a lion resting upon the shrine like plinth and surmounted by the 𝑓 serpent, right over here. He's on a splint right over here, and he's sitting right here, the lion, and there is some lotus flowers right over here, and there's a burning incense over here, and the 𝑓 on the very top. The bouquet of lotus flowers and flaming braziers are next to him as well, which I indicated. In front is an open lotus blossom on the offering stand. The next below identifies this animal as Rehu, the lion, whom more complete versions of the chapter says is the phallus of Ra, right over here. So I want to show you that when it comes to lotuses, this is a closed lotus and that is an open lotus. So you can see the difference between the two of them. Now, chapter 17 is the longest and most important of all chapters in the Book of the Dead. It is also one of the oldest, with close comparison to chapter 335 of the coffin text. Because the chapter's length, it's hardly surprising that there are many versions of both the text and the accompanying vignettes. The important thing of this chapter was that it offered detailed theological overview of the relationship between the sun god and other deities in the next world. The lengthy and often rubricized introduction of this chapter, in fact, almost sounds as if it could be served as a general introduction to the entire work of the Book of the Dead. So that's it right there. This symbol here I wanted to indicate is a symbol for followers, so the followers of Atum. Finally, for Egyptologists, the special interest of chapter 17 is that it is one of the few instances when the Egyptians supply their commentary on a religious text. Unfortunately, in most cases, that commentary is obscure, as the text its purpose supports to explain. Since it supplies two or more alternative explanations, it could be that parts of this chapter were as confusing to Egyptians as it is to us today. It has been suggested that when alternative interpretations of the text appear, these might represent the views of different theological schools, stressing the importance of a particular god or gods. So this means in their regions, and depending where they are situated in the Egyptian countryside, the 42 nomes, each would have their own specific god focused on. So that would be basically the explanation for the Book of the Dead for the final plate of chapter 17. So let us now move on to reading the text, starting from the very left over here. So stay tuned for that. All right, Egyptology lovers, so now we're going to start reading from the text from over here for plate 10. This is the last chapter for 17 of the 7 to 10 chapters, or 7 to 10 plates. So here we go, starting from here. This continues from the previous plate 9, where it says otherwise said, and then it comes over here. behind the purifying of Osiris, otherwise said, as for these, right over here, these 7 spirits. Now, this is naming the gods from the previous plate. So, again, this plate is put together very roughly by using different chapters. So, much of what you see here is actually describing what happened in the previous plate. So, once again, the 7 spirits, we have 𝓄�𝓈𝓇𝑖𝑐𝑎𝑚, 𝓄𝓈�𝑘𝑒𝑑, and here we have he whose flame was set for in front, this is the same word, in front of his burning. Who entered into him who is in his hour. The red-eyed one, again from the previous plate, who is in the mansion of the red linen. The radiant one, which is also from the previous chapter, upon coming forth after having returned back. He who sees in the night what he shall bring in the day. As for the head, so this is the combined, which is in the tribunal, his name is in 𝓄𝓈𝓇𝑖𝑐𝑎𝑚. So it's a city area, 𝓄𝓈𝓇𝑖𝑐𝑎𝑚. Hail, Horus, who is the head of his father. As for, moreover, that day, come to me. He said, this Osiris, to Ra. Come to me, continues over here, comes to me, that I may see you. So he said to the west, I am his twin soul, which are the 2 fledgling. What does it mean? It means that this Osiris, when he entered to Jeddu or Besuris, he found the soul there of Ra. They stood and embraced each other. Then stood and came into being the soul, the twin souls of the 2 fledglings. As for, moreover, the twin souls of the fledgling, of the 2 fledglings, continues over here now. Save me from this God who steals the souls of those who will lap up corruption, who lives on the putrid, who is in charge of darkness, who is with Sokar, of whom those who are among the languid, they are afraid. What does it mean? It means that this set, otherwise said, the great bull or wild bull, and the soul of Geb, 𝓿𝑓, in the midst of his sacred bark, primeval of his body, save me, O Osiris, scribe, Ani. Save me from those who are in charge of your examination, to whom the Lord of all has given power for him to do guarding against his enemies, who put knives in the slaughterhouse. Those who leave to their guardianship your knives shall not cut you. Therefore, I shall not enter to your slaughterhouse. I shall not fall victim to your slaughter blocks. And no harm shall be done to me from those whom the gods detest. To whom I am purified upon the Milky Way. He who brings supper of faience, which is a type of stone, which is in the 𝓤𝓈�𝑇𝑌 shrine. What does it mean? Continues here. What does it mean? As for 𝓤𝓏, who's in the midst of his bark, and this Ra himself, as for those who are in charge of the examining, they are the two sun apes, Isis, and this 𝓄𝓈�𝑇𝑌. As for those in which the gods detest, they are this feces and falsehood. As for him who passed, and having bathed upon the Milky Way, this is Anubis. This is 𝑓. We don't pronounce this word, it's just entering a new sentence, but it's a combination of the Anubis. So this Anubis, who is behind the chest which contains, so this is all together, the chest which contains, so the filled in chest, the entrails of Osiris. As for him that has been given a meal of faience, which continues over here, faience, which is in the 𝓤𝓈�𝑇𝑌 shrine. This Osiris, or of this Osiris, otherwise said, as for the meal of faience, which is in the 𝓤𝓈�𝑇𝑌 shrine, which is in this sky and this earth. Otherwise said, it means that Shu has hammered out these two lands of Heracleopolis, which is 𝓄𝓈�𝑇 or 𝓄𝓈𝓠. Heracleopolis is 𝓄𝓈𝓠. As for the meal of faience, it is the eye of this Horus. As for the 𝓤𝓈�𝑇𝑘 shrine, it is this tomb of Osiris. Built is your house, O Atum. How well founded is your shrine or mansion. O double lion, run, run to this. If Horus be respected, Set will be divine. He shall have to come into this land. He has made use of his feet. The Osiris scribe Ani, vindicated every day. From him Osiris to him Atum. So this is going to be a continuation of the Atum and Osiris. This is an U, it's not pronounced, but it says the new sentence is being created for specifically them, Atum and Osiris. So let's continue down here. He is in your city, behind you. So behind you. O lion. So this is the full name of the lion. Who? O lion, bright of mouth and shining of head. Retreat because of his strength. Otherwise said, attend on guard him who is seen. O he who is not seen, do not wait for me. The Osiris Ani vindicated. I am Isis. He found, the past tense found continues here, the past tense continues here. He found him when he disarranged the hair on his face. And my scalp, it was in disorder. He has become pregnant as Isis. He has conceived as Nephthys, driving out those who await him. The dread follow you, your dignity before. His arms, millions who bend their arms to you. The common folk serve you. The associates of your enemies are destroyed for him. The gray-haired ones uncover their arms for you. Your appearance gives to your sweet things. Those who are in 𝓤𝓤 and who are in 𝓄𝓈�𝑇𝑘 or Heliopolis creates things for you. So creates continues here, for you. Every god is afraid of you, because so great and mighty is your respect of every god. There would vilify him. Malachi glitters. Live you according to your will of yours. As to the 𝓿𝑗𝑡 lady of the devouring flame, you of the gate, you who dislike them. What does it mean? It means that the secret shapes, the arms of Hemens or Hemen is the name of the fish trap. He who sees upon bringing the hand is the name of the storm cloud, otherwise said, the name of the slaughter block. As for the one behind, whose mouth is bright, whose head is shining, and this phallus of Osiris, otherwise said, it is this phallus of Ra. As for you disarranging your hair and scalp, as for you disarranging your hair and scalp, the mouth is open. It means that Isis is in the shrine of Sokar and she had rubbed her hair. Therefore, as for Wadjet, lady of devouring flame, she is this eye of Ra.